Or? Yeah. Oh. Well, if there's not enough, we'll get some more. Okay. Okay. I thought for maybe half an hour or 45 minutes we'd do. If you have any questions about this practice, or just any Dharma question at all that you feel like asking, we've run out of time for interviews, so I thought, we did this at Vajrapani and it was kind of fun. If you don't have any, it's okay, we'll go on with some more stuff, but anything at all that you're wondering about for Dharma, anything at all you want to ask, go ahead, yeah.
I was wondering on our book,
yeah.
on the big three not helpful things.
Yeah.
Is it okay to put an intention with that at the same time?
Yeah, that's fine. Like she said, when you do the best three and the worst three at the end of the day, can you still do a to-do? And that's great because it might not come up in the vows for that day. That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
In the when we do the confession and we acknowledge the broken vows, what's actually missing in this book? Or we discussed this to actually affect the purification of the broken vows. Could you just comment a little bit about how because certain pieces are there and certain pieces seem to be missing.
Yeah. You have to have all four elements in cleaning out bad karma to really purify it. And if you can get Tricycle Magazine, which I don't suggest reading any of the other articles. I'm not, I have to, that's a bodhisattva actually. Be careful reading the other articles. I believe that, I'm of the strong opinion that there are many mistaken ideas represented in that magazine. But there is an article in there about the four forces, okay? The four powers of purification. First one would be reasserting your Buddhist practice by the first two steps in our meditation, right? Which is taking refuge and thinking about bodhicitta. And that's the first step in purification. Second step is like honest regret of an intelligent Buddhist, like you. I'll give you a very concrete example. I had jealousy towards a person in July or something, or August. Heavy duty, very strong. It went on for like a couple of days. And in particular, one bad day. And being a very well-educated Buddhist, I was almost like a scientist. I was saying, I wonder what kind of disasters are going to come out of this. Let's watch and see. And the effects have gone on for months. I believe I have identified the karmic result in my life. And it's very, very bad. It's very distasteful. And I've been watching it for 6 months, or, I don't know, 4 months. And once you get good at understanding karma, you will be surprised at the long-term effects of even a small bad deed. The bad deed was only a day or two. It wasn't all day, it was on and off. And I did fight it. I'm not like crazy. But I've watched the effects for months, and it's very bad. So that's just all. Number two is, you did it, and being a good Buddhist, you're very aware of the problem it's going to cause you in your own life, and you regret it, okay? It's nothing like guilt or I'm a bad person or blah, blah, blah. You're not a bad person. If you have this book in your hands, you are 1 in a million, You're reaching the end of a zillion year evolutionary cycle, Not bad. But you have to regret it because it's going to cause trouble to you. And that's all. Number 3 is what? Antidote? Is it? Yeah. That was number 2. Kyopa. Yeah, number 3 is like Resolve not to do it again, right? Nyepale londo beto. Which is, what is it? I don't forget which one comes first. Anyway, I'll check tricycle. It's, decide not to do it again. And, of course, the oral lineage says, don't add a lie to the original problem. Make it a reasonable amount of time that you agree not to do it again. So, I have jealousy, and I know my jealousy's been there 20 years or longer, and I know it's going to come and... Thank you. I know it's going to come and beat me up again. And I have no, I have no illusions that it's going to all go away. You know what I mean? But at least I'll not have jealousy about this person for another couple of hours or something, You might want to make the mental ones very short. I have broken the thing again during the process of purification. Right? I've done it again before I finish the fourth power 3 minutes later, Just by thinking about how bad it was, and then I get on the subject again. And then, I got it in the right order. Thanks, Robert. The fourth, that's a good thing about being a teacher. You get taught by your students. The fourth one is to do something to make up for it. And the strongest make-up is to study emptiness. Because if you understand anything about emptiness, you won't want to do bad deeds. You won't want to break your vows. You see what I mean? Because you know very well, if things are empty, then what they are is determined by whether I did good or bad things. So it's just the most powerful thing you can do, is to understand the emptiness of what you did. You can also do mantras. You can also go to the person and talk to them, about it, like that. Admit it, own it. Do something to make up for it. And depending on what it was, you might want to do something specific to that. Like if you have a problem with, if it was like hurting someone physically, you could, like killing other creatures or something. You could go work in a hospital for a week or something like, volunteer at a hospital, or something like that. Okay, that's all. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think you just answered this, but I've heard it several ways of whether or not karma can ripen in the same lifetime that you do it, like instant karma or somewhat instant karma. I've heard that it doesn't work that way at all. And
in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, the Buddha says, O Subhuti, any son or daughter of a noble family who takes up a sutra like this, the Diamond Cutter, or any sutra on emptiness, and who holds it or reads it or comprehends it fully will suffer. They will suffer intensely. Then he clarifies himself. Why is it so? Because, O Subhuti, such beings are purifying non-virtuous karma, karma which would have taken them to the 3 lower realms. As they purify this karma, it causes them to suffer here in this life. As such, they will succeed in cleaning away the karma of these non-virtuous deeds of their previous lifetimes, and they will come to achieve the enlightenment of a Buddha. The Sutra of the Great Liberation, the Buddha also says, even though one may have the bad karma to take his birth in the 3 lower realms, a simple headache will clean it away. You see, if you do a good purification, a deed that normally would have taken you to the lower realms can ripen quickly in this life as a small headache or something. And that's the Buddha. That ain't...
Right. But I guess what I was asking is to say I do something bad today. In this lifetime, will it ripen?
Karma ripens in 3 stages.
Okay.
It's good to know these things. Karma can ripen in 3 stages. Abhidharma Kosha, 4th chapter. Tongyurkile, which means you will see the result in this lifetime. And then Keinen Yongyurkile, which means in the very next lifetime. And then Shenan Yongyurkile will be ripened in the second life on and past that. And it pretty much depends on what kind of motivation you did it with. How strong was the motivation? If your motivation is particularly strong mental affliction, it can move it up in priority. And then the other airplanes have to wait. And then yours takes off first. You see what I mean? One other thing about that. What was that? it's important, I think, and I think Tibetan Lamas, maybe they don't state it so clearly sometimes. Frankly, there are several different kinds of karmic results from any particular action you do. Different genres of karmic results. One is your next rebirth. You see what I mean? Like if you do something very violent, it can cause you in your next life to take a rebirth as a dog or a hell being or whatever. The second one is that even if you take birth as a human, something will happen during that lifetime. Like you will have a shorter life, or you will find yourself endangered by other people. You will live in New York City near Central Park or something, on the wrong side. Okay. The other is specifically that specific thing will happen to you over and over again. You know. Another one is called an environmental effect, which means all the details of your physical environment are determined by your past karma. You see? Whether or not the state you live in has pollution, whether or not the air is clean, whether or not there's a lot of traffic, whether or not they clean up the potholes in your area, you know, all those things are a result of, that's called an environmental result of karma. And then there are what we call the psychological effects, which means if you endanger other people's lives on a steady basis, you will, in your next life, enjoy that kind of thing. And you know, I always tell the story, when I was growing up, we had a palm tree field behind my house, and you could find doves there, sitting there, and with their babies sometimes, and we had this natural reverence for their lives, and we would just look at them, and they were really beautiful, and our parents told us not to touch them, and we didn't touch them. And then we had another neighborhood kid who would wander around and shoot them with his BB gun, and he thought that was really fun, and I remember we were shocked about that. And that's a karma of, to enjoy that is the karma, is a result of karma in your past life, that you killed a lot in your past life. And so you take to your next life the habit of doing that. And those are all karmic results. So I object strenuously to the idea that some of your life is caused by karma and some of it isn't. You know, this idea that the major cause is karma and the contributing factor is something else, that's impossible to me. There's no such thing. Everything in your life is determined by karma. Your thoughts, your physical body, and your world are all caused by karma. Even the neutral things are caused by ignorance in your past life, you see?
Even choices?
Even choices. But because of that thing about habits, you see, I mean, you have choices and they're dependently originating.
You truly have no freedom of choice.
You have freedom of choice and it's dependently originating. Meaning it's dependent on other factors, of course. You see what I mean?
So how can I choose to practice?
What you're asking me is that if what I just said is true, then the odds against even being attracted to the Dharma are almost infinite against you because of your past lives. You know what I mean? And what do you think the Lamrim is talking about when they talk about the blind turtle at the bottom of the ocean? It's not an exaggeration, you know. The Lamrim says there's a blind turtle living at the bottom of the ocean. He comes up, what, every 50 years or 100 years for some breath, and somebody threw a life preserver. What do you call those round things? Those round, yeah, a ring. One of those, they throw them off of ships with a rope on them. And by dumb luck, this thing is floating around the 7 seas of the planet Earth, and they stick their head up right between it. By chance, that's the odds of being interested in the Dharma. The Buddha, you know, and Buddha taught many times. One day he was sitting there and he licked his finger and he touched some dust on the table, you know, and he said, how many pieces of dust there? And somebody said, I don't know, 20, 30. And he said, now how many atoms in this planet, in the mass of the entire planet? And he said, that's the number of people who have a good rebirth, you know. That's the number of people who have any kind of interest in Dharma. It is almost impossible, you know. And it is dependently originating. You see, if you say there's some things that are karma and there's some things that are not karma, you're saying that some things are not dependently arising, and then you're saying that there are some objects which don't have emptiness, and that's impossible. There's no such thing, you see.
That wasn't what I
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I object to that. It never made sense to me. Where do you draw the line? You know, this is caused by karma, and this is not caused by karma. It doesn't make any sense to me, you know. It never made any sense to me. And then I studied it, and there's no such thing, you know. The contributing factors, what you call contributing factors, are created by the same karma that causes the major event. You see what I mean? Of course, you see. It is true that if you work in a certain responsible way, statistically, you'll probably get more money than other people. Is it because that kind of work creates money? No. It's because the karma to want to work that way is very close to the karma of getting money. And they happen to ripen close to each other. You see what I mean? They are not cause and effect. And that's very subtle, you know. You have to get used to that. The karmic causes that cause what are called factors, and implied by some people to be outside of the laws of karma. And then the karma that causes the events that are caused by those factors are of course created by at the similar time, and they're a result of similar karma. And that's why one seems to cause the other, but it's not true. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Somebody said, I lied about my green card. Is that a bad karma? I mean, and they said to me, if I hadn't lied, I wouldn't have got my green card, you know. Then I said, does everybody who lies get a green card? And they said, no. So I said, so lying doesn't cause green cards. Lying is a negative thing. A green card, if you want a green card, is a positive thing. You have to get used to the concept that a negative action can never, ever, at all have a positive effect. Nothing. Okay? There's no such thing as a white lie. You see what I mean? It's impossible. It's totally impossible. The Buddha taught it over and over and over. It's the source of all suffering for everybody. To believe that a little negative thing can give you any kind of positive result. It's totally wrong. It causes the suffering of humanity to think that, you know. And it's very tempting, right? I just won't tell them about that and everything will be all right. You know, I'll just little lie and everything will be all right. It's very tempting. According to Buddhism, a tiny lie cannot have a good result. Impossible. Okay? Yeah.
How do, if every action is caused by something we did before, if it's all karmic, how do we grow? I mean, we started out, you know, one way. How do we get better if maybe we didn't have any good, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. There's an evolution. There's a inescapable evolution of a human mind. You must get enlightened. You will get enlightened. And because the factors that support getting enlightened always win over the factors that deny you enlightenment. What do I mean? All suffering and all of your pain is based on a misperception. You think the world is self-existent. And that causes all of your struggles. All of your bad karma is caused by that misperception. The antidote to that is a realization that it's wrong. There's this thing they taught me when I was a kid. A lie stands on one leg and the truth stands on two. They say, don't lie because lies are so inefficient. You have to keep remembering what you told everybody, you know. Rather than just telling them exactly what you remember or what the truth was, you have to remember, I lied to this person this way and this person this way, and I have to keep my story straight or I'm in trouble. Sooner or later it breaks down. Sooner or later a lie is exposed. And it's the same with that misperception. All of your suffering springs from a misperception. Sooner or later you figure it out. Sooner or later every human mind figures it out. All human beings will become Buddhas. That's the proof in the monastery and in the perfection of wisdom. How's it go? You know, because there is an antidote. There is an end to samsara. Because the realization that things are empty always wins over the misperception that things are self-existent. Okay? So that's, you know, the odds are with you. Sooner or later you come out. You can wander for a long, long time, you know. But sooner or later the truth will out, you know. And that's the argument that you must evolve out of it, you know. And there's upward cycles and downward cycles. Bill Gates wrote that interesting book, The Road Forward or something like that. Something like that. And he talked about negative cycles, downward cycles of companies, of corporations, and then upward cycles. Samsara is very similar. You know, somebody gets angry at you, they yell at you. You always have a choice at that moment. That's the first link of dependent origination. Dambu marikpa nipa dujekile. The first link is ignorance. The second link is karma, fresh karma. And you always have a choice there to break it. Whether you continue in samsara or not is always determined by what you do between the first and second links of the wheel of life. If you look at the wheel of life, it's the blind guys with the cane, and it's the guys making pots. That's where you have power to break it. What does it mean in a practical application? Your boss screams at you. You have a choice of screaming back or not. The natural reaction is to scream back. That happens to be precisely the only way to cause a screaming boss in your future.
But do you have a choice not to? I mean,
of course you do.
Your karma, your previous karma isn't going to force you to scream back at you?
It'll affect you very strongly.
It'll make you give you a predisposition to scream.
Yeah.
Stop it.
We have had for beginningless time, the predisposition to scream back. And to not scream back is very unnatural, extremely unnatural. And it can only happen if you study well. You see what I mean? Tösam gomsum. If you study very, very well, you can overcome your natural animal reaction. And that's the only hope you have, you know, is to study. And when they say Buddhist study, Tösam gomsum, the process of study, contemplation, and meditation, they're talking thousands of hours of study, okay? Like you're talking 3,000-4,000 hours of study to react properly at the right moment. It's not enough to hear it once or twice. You have to immerse yourself. You know, come to Kadampa Center once or twice a week, seriously, and study. It's not that you never heard it before. It's not that you're hearing anything you didn't hear before. Hearing it over and over again gives you the power to not respond in the same way that's going to bring that thing back to you again. That's why the wheel of life is a wheel. That's why samsara was translated into Tibetan as the word korwa, the circle, the self-perpetuating circle. The natural reaction to any negative thing is precisely the only cause that would make it happen again. It's very nasty. You know, it's very ironic. It's too bad. And the Buddhist career is to shorten the reaction cycle. You see what I mean? I always tell people the first time you try to use this at work and your boss screams at you, and you try to remember that if you scream back, you're going to meet him again. You will remember 5 minutes later on the way to the bathroom, you know. Where I work, I go out of my office, I turn left, I go past a couple other offices, I turn left again, and it's a long hallway down to and the men's bathroom is on the end. And I used to always remember not to yell back about the time I was to the drinking fountain, which is just outside of the bathroom, you know. And it took 5 minutes, and then later it took 4 minutes, and then later it took 3 minutes, you know. And then later, as the anger rose, I could stop. And you have to shorten the reaction time, you know. Herb and I were talking about it. I mean, sometimes you just get impulses that you can't help. Like jealousy for me just comes up, whoom. And I have to be like watching all the time, you know. And then it comes up and you know, how fast can I punch him? You know, how fast can I get him down? That's the question. And when I'm tired, or I ate too much, or I'm not paying attention, or then he gets to beat me up. They're like big bullies. They really are. If you don't act quickly, if it goes on too long, they're probably going to win. You know, you have to start when they're small. You know, yeah. Herbie, go ahead.
When you're doing these visualizations, some of us have had a number of different teachers, and if you have a connection with, say, His Holiness, but you've had other teachers around, some of them you've had good connections with, and you're doing this visualization of the Guru, how do you manage to get one image? And in other words, let's say you have 5 or 6 that you're fairly well connected with and you're very fond of and that sort of thing. How does one treat that problem in a visualization? Because a man wants to pick here, there, and here, and all that, and it gets confusing.
I think I'll give you a very sweet answer. I mean, later in your life, you'll realize, and I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating, that they are one person. You see, they're it's just one person in different forms. Okay. And so, personally, I just pick the one that's on my mind in the mind. I mean, there's one main one, and then it's no problem to, the other ones will come up. I think if you appreciate the fact that they're all the same person, then it won't be so much trouble when sometimes they fade in and out, different.
Well, I have a thought that comes up that, I'm discriminating.
No, not like that. Yeah, I know. I'll tell you, I think about it a lot because I have the same problem, but, the Buddha appears as Tara, the Buddha appears as Manjushri, the Buddha appears as Vajrapani. And to me, each one of my lamas gives me a different kind of gift. Each one... Each one has a different function for me, One of them yells at me, one of them is sweet to me, one of them teaches me patience, one of them teaches me. They all have different functions, and I think just get used to that, and that's okay. The reason there are 5 different ones is that being deems it necessary for your benefit to show 5 different aspects, and they all have their place. And so, when you're feeling like you need some friendly lama, meditate on one, and when you're being bad, you might want to use the angry one, And there's no problem there. There's no problem there, yeah?
Before you were talking, you used the example, and I want to understand the difference. You used the example, you think something is bad, so therefore it is. And I was wondering which one was self-cherishing, which one was selfishness? When you're thinking something's bad, or when it, I just
Okay. I think the flame in your heart, I have only so far given you selfishness, to think of it as selfishness. Just like eating the last cookie yourself, or finishing off the Cheerios, and not thinking whether Don's going to get any, and stuff like that. But that's selfishness. Seeing things as self-existent is totally different. That's like the thing about your favorite song, to truly believe that everyone should be seeing things the way you do, which is impossible, and that's a difference. There's a difference between selfishness or self-cherishing. I put selfishness and self-cherishing together. Taking care of yourself first. There's a difference between that and believing honestly that things have to be the way they seem to you. Believing that they have a quality of being the best rock and roll song in the world from their side, and not because it's something coming from you. That's believing in self-existence. That causes all the trouble of the world. We had it in the class. Korwe Gyuchir, Rim Gyuchir, Semjun Namle, Tsorwadon, Dushe Loshi Pumbarshak, Abhidharma Kosha, 2nd chapter. The reason feeling and discrimination are divided out as separate skandhas is that they're the cause of all problem in the world. I like this, I don't like that. He's my friend, she's not my friend. Those are based on ignorance. Those are generated by ignorance, and that's all. That's a big difference. If you get sophisticated at it, sometimes you can think of the red flame as your habit of seeing things as self-existent. And if you read the readings, you'll see that they're explained both ways. The different lamas give it two different meanings. You know, like that. And that's fine. I think if you get good at it, you might want to use the one about self-existence. Okay, seeing things as self-existent. Yeah.
I have a question about emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
I find that when I try to study emptiness, oftentimes I come to a very nihilistic or very negative conclusion. So what? I mean, so what?
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes an obstacle
Mm.
in further. What's an antidote, or what's something to do?
I call it the marriage of emptiness and karma. I think it's the first time I ever spoke here. It was about that. If someone teaches you emptiness and doesn't immediately start teaching you about good deeds, there's a very serious problem there. You know what I mean? This flower is not from its side attractive or unattractive. It's empty of that quality. Whether it's attractive or unattractive to you depends on your karma. And that depends on whether you've been a good girl or not. You know, it doesn't depend on the flower. You see what I mean? And in that sense, emptiness can be very fulfilling. You see what I mean? And that's all. It doesn't mean that the flower doesn't exist. I always tell people, if you think that emptiness means that things don't exist, then since taxi cabs are empty, you go stand out in front of a Pakistani guy going down Fifth Avenue at 90 miles an hour and you know, send us a postcard from the hospital and tell us if this was empty or not. Of course emptiness doesn't mean that. You know, that's just, frankly, that's lousy teaching on emptiness causes those ideas. You know, if you really understand emptiness, it's a comfort. It means all things are possible. Your death is empty, therefore it doesn't have to happen that way. And that's very comforting. Then I'll give you another quotation. Shantideva, you guys had it. Do you remember it? Master Shantideva. What do you say about that? He said, if you think meditating on emptiness is scary, try not meditating on emptiness. You know what I mean? Try life. You know, he says that. He addresses that question. He says, meditating on emptiness is a little difficult. It can be a little disconcerting sometimes. But the intense pain you will feel if you don't get it in this lifetime is hundreds of times worse. So he says, don't even worry about it. Just do it. You know? So go straight from emptiness to paradise. You know, think about, when you think about emptiness, think about how it's going to allow you to reach a Buddha paradise, and you'll never feel. If you feel those feelings, it's a bad teaching on. Somebody gave you a bad teaching on emptiness. You know, emptiness makes paradise possible. And it should make you joyful to think about emptiness, because, wow, that means I can change. You know, that means people around me can change. That means my loved ones don't have to die. I don't have to be separated from them. If we play our karmic cards right, everything will turn out just like in the movies, you know. And it's true. So emptiness should bring you some great comfort. It's the only possibility you have that could get you out of this mess is imparted by emptiness. Emptiness is our big friend, you know, really. You know. If it wasn't for emptiness, then everything would be hopeless. So don't be, it's funny because you're being scared about the very guy who's the only guy who can help you, you know, so like that, yeah.
Are our dreams, our own dreams, empty?
Sure. By the way, he asked if our dreams are empty. Every object is empty. There is no object in the universe which is not empty. Okay? Meaning, from the dependent origination side of things, there's nothing in the world which is not a perception of something forced on you by your past deeds. Okay? There's nothing in the world that's not a perception of something forced on you by your past deeds. There's nothing like that. You see? Everything is like that. Yeah.
And as a proof, like for the candle, you prove the emptiness more or less by choosing two different persons who were seeing the candle as two different objects.
Yeah.
For our dreams, how can we prove that? Since my own dream last night, I was the only one who had it.
I know what you mean, yeah. Yeah. When you prove the emptiness of the mind, basically the proofs for emptiness, you prove the emptiness, when you prove the emptiness of me, if you go through proving the emptiness of the body and then proving the emptiness of the mind. Proving the emptiness of the mind is a little tricky. The body is a little easier, you know. Is there a most basic building block of physical matter? You see what I mean? It's what we call atoms, right? Copper atom, iron atom. All Mrs. Boulay, 11th grade, chemistry class, you know, periodic chart. You know, the basic building block of all physical matter is those atoms, and each one has its own quality, and that's the lowest you can get. And when atoms with their own qualities get together, they create molecules, and they have their different qualities. But the lowest down you can get is the atom. And you can say that the atom has its own electrons and neutrons, but for it to have an identity as particular element, copper, iron, you know, whatever, oxygen, you have to have at least that much of it, and then it has its quality. And if you don't have that much of it, it doesn't have that quality. So we can say that that's the lowest kind of physical matter that still has its own quality. Buddhism would say, but that quality is imparted by my mind conceptualizing it upon the parts of the atom. There are parts of the atom, and then my mind is organizing those parts and calling it copper, in the same way that my mind organizes purpleness and cylindricalness and calls it a candle. But the thing that's making those parts of an atom a copper atom is coming from my side, in the same way that the thing that makes a candle is my mind calling the purpleness and thinking of the purple cylinder as a candle. It is not from its own side a candle. From its own side, at that point, it's only a purple cylinder. Okay. The copper atom is not from its side a copper atom. From its side, it's only a group of electrons and protons. I am supplying the copperness to it. It doesn't have copperness from its side. That's coming from me in the same way that candleness is coming from my side. Okay? There is raw data out there. I'm interpreting it a certain way. But can you find even an atom of copper, which is an atom of copper from its own side? No. You see what I mean? That's the proof of the non-existence of atoms. It's not atoms that are making you up.
Yep.
It's your projections down to an atomic level onto protons and electrons. You make it copper. It's not copper from its own side. Okay? What's that got to do with your dreams? Then you go to the mind. And this is more tricky, okay? What is the mind? You know, is it a collection of atoms? No. It's a collection of moments of present consciousness. I snapped my fingers 3 times. By the time I got to the third one, your awareness of the first one was past. You see? There were 3 in a row. For convenience's sake, we call your awareness at the time of the first snap, and your awareness at the time of the second snap, and your awareness at the time of the third snap, we look at them together, and we call them your mind over the last 3 seconds. Just for convenience sake. Who's doing that? Who's calling that my mind since the last 3 seconds ago? You are. Your mind is, okay? Is it from its own side, your mind? No. No more than the purple cylinder is a candle from its own side. You got to get used to that, okay? If a purple cylinder was a candle from its own side, every purple cylinder would be a candle from its own side, and Yeshi would be lighting candles all over the house and not chewing these purple cylinders, okay? What makes those 3 moments of consciousness be your mind is your projections, okay? Forced on you by your past karma. Okay, now we get to your dream, okay, finally. Your dream is empty in the same way. It is, again, a series of moments of consciousness of a dream. Collectively, we call it a dream. You know, who calls it a dream? You call it a dream. Okay, that's all. So that proves the emptiness of your dream. You see? It is also a construct imposed on a group of parts by your karma. And you don't, unfortunately, you don't have a choice in the matter at this point. You can improve your constructs for the future, but you're stuck with the ones that you're creating right now. Okay? We can do one more question, maybe. Yes?
I have a question. Just like the 5 precepts, how you apply the emptiness to the precepts.
Well, that's a good
let's say,
question.
The killing part.
Yeah.
Every 3 aspects of the killer and being killed and the action are all empty.
Yeah.
Then is that possible to kill emptiness, or is that something? How you apply it?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. He said that in the act of killing, for example, there's a killie, a killer, a killie, and a killing, right? You just have to think e, and ing, right? It would seem like if the object being killed, let's say it's a cow for food, if let's say the animal is has its own emptiness, meaning if you had different karma, you would be perceiving this 4 legs and this body as Yeshi the dog. You see? And you wouldn't have any intention to kill it and eat it. You see what I mean? That's a pet. That's an animal that you take care of and you feed them. They don't feed you. You see what I mean? But if you had a different karma, you would see it as a cow to be killed. There's a distinction between that animal possessing emptiness and being emptiness. You see what I mean? The animal possesses emptiness, but it is not the state of emptiness. Otherwise, when you look at a cow directly, you just became an Arya. Okay? All right? You just perceive emptiness directly. That would be really easy. You know, you see what I mean? It has emptiness, but it is not emptiness. Every object in the universe has its own emptiness. But it is not the emptiness which it possesses. Okay? What is its emptiness? The fact that it was never anything else but your projections is its emptiness. That fact is born every time an object is born. Okay? When a kid is born, he immediately possesses a certain quality. What's that? His emptiness. What's that? The fact that he's anything but not, double negative, okay? Your projections. A product of your projections, okay? I'll do it easier, okay? When a kid is born, his or her dependent origination is that his identity or her identity depends solely on the way you organize that raw data, okay? Whether there's a child there or not depends only on your own state of mind, okay? That's their dependent origination. The fact that they're not anything else is their emptiness. Okay? Got it? I'll give you another way. I'll say it another way. When a child is born, let's say it a different way. When you have a person in your life who pisses you off, okay, someone you don't like, there are three possibilities for where they came from. Possibility one, they have been sent to you by a creator to test you or to make your life miserable or whatever, okay? Assuming the creator is merciful and compassionate, and knowing that the creator could have created us to be perfect and not have to have met this person in the first place, it don't make any sense, okay? It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't really believe that you believe it. You may say so, but I don't think so, you know. It doesn't make any sense that someone would sit in a big throne somewhere and purposely send you lousy things in your life if it wasn't necessary. You see what I mean? And you can say it's necessary with small irritations, but death, AIDS, cancer, suffering for 70 years, Alzheimer's, come on. You know, who would do that to anybody? I reject it. The other possibility is it's just random. You know? Just random. This person was made from an accident of cosmic dust which bumped into Saturn and ended up accumulating into a person on planet Z. You know, and I don't think in your heart you sense that that could be the case. If it could be the case, it's probably not likely. Third possibility is that they're a projection of your karma. Okay. The emptiness of the person at work who bothers you is that they are not the first two. How's that? Okay? That's one kind of emptiness that they possess. And if you kill them, don't worry, you're not going to hurt that emptiness. You see what I mean? They possess that emptiness, but they're not that emptiness. Okay? What does the emptiness mean? The fact that they were not created by some guy. How's that? Don't blame this guy for the people in your life who bother you. Don't blame the people who bother you. And don't blame random accidents in the universe. Okay? You created them. Were you just a factor in creating them? Or did you create every single tone of their voice, every single move they make towards you, every single line on their face? Sorry, you're responsible for every single detail, you know? And, you know, you would like to think that, you know, I'm just responsible for the way their voice sounds, but not the fact that they're so ugly to me, you know? But you can't say that. It's not true. It's really not true. You're responsible for every single little detail. You know, if you don't like it, then stop being bad. If you don't like it, then keep your book, you know? Seriously, okay? Yeah.
How can you ever catch up on the balance sheet?
Yeah. No, it's a... Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, will spiders ever look nice to me?
Yeah, they will, yeah. No, in a you think there are spiders who are ugly in a Buddha paradise?
Okay, but in this lifetime, if I don't make Buddha, will I stop being...
We don't talk like that. No. Don't talk like that. You know, you got to get out in this lifetime. You got to practice Tantra and get out in this lifetime. You know, don't even talk like that. Okay. Of course they'll look fantastic. Okay. Probably some big being that can hug you with 8 arms instead of just 2, you know. Something like that. Yeah, if it wasn't for purification, you were out of luck. Because the balance sheet is always really bad. I compare it to my credit card, you know. Life, to be born as a human, is like starting life with a new credit card. And we quickly run it up. You know, you quickly use up your good karma. And that's why you're getting old. You see? That's why you're getting old. If you could just maintain the karma you had at the beginning of your life, you'd be fine. You can't even do that. You're constantly running at a debit. You're constantly running into the red. And that's why you're getting old. Okay? And that's why you lose your girlfriend and all that. You know, whatever karma brings these things to you, you use them up. Your negative karma is more powerful than your positive karma because I can prove it because you're getting old. And you can reverse that. You know what I mean? If you were started collecting more good karma than bad karma, the aging process would be reversed.
Yeah, but the old things that you did way in the past, and they expand.
They expand, yeah. Purification. Those 4 forces work. If it wasn't for that, it would be hopeless. Who taught the four forces? Topshi Tenbe Do, the Buddha, Lord Buddha. It's not made up by Tibetan lamas or something like that. The Buddha taught it. Chushi Tenbe Do. Okay. So yeah, that's the only hope you have, is that. And a practice like Tonglen, if it's done sincerely, puts you way ahead. It's very, very powerful. The intention to help every living being, even as a fantasy that we just did earlier today, is extremely powerful good karma. That will put you way ahead. You know, that would get you way ahead. So you got to do Tonglen as much as you can. It's not a. It's a very serious race against time to pull it off before it's too late. You know, and you can. You really can. People have done it a lot. You know, people have done it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't really mind.
Going back to the 4 steps of purification, and the last one you said that the best antidote is to study emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've been saying this over and over again, but I find it easier when I say I'm really angry at someone, and my antidote is to understand that what I felt, the projection that I felt from that person was due to me. I can almost theoretically grasp that. Okay, that one's okay.
Yeah.
Say I told a lie, really, really bad lie once.
Yeah.
Which I did, okay?
Really?
How do I see the emptiness in myself? How do I use the emptiness antidote against that to make sure that lie doesn't ripen? Do you know
Well, there's the liar, the lie, and the lying, right? You're talking about the liar, right? Yeah. The sphere called the liar. To understand that emptiness would be to say, I can become anything. Because I'm empty, I have the potential to become a Buddha, and I also have the potential to continue suffering like this. And if I keep lying, I'll turn out to be, I'll suffer. And if I stop lying, I won't suffer. And that's the emptiness of you. That's all. That's all. Does it help purify that lie?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, it's very similar to Tonglen. You see, it's very similar to Tonglen. Tonglen, obviously, now you know it doesn't work the way you thought it worked, right? Can't take away, never believe that, and you know in your heart it's not true. You've been trying that in church since you were 6 years old. Mom, oh God, please take away Aunt Joni's tumor. And then you went and checked, and it was still there, and at some point you gave up. You said, this doesn't work, you know. And Tonglen doesn't work any better. It doesn't work that way. It makes you get enlightened more fast, and then you can really help people. And it's the same thing with purification. Okay, purification is oftentimes more the intelligent prevention of future bad karma than the removal of old bad karma. To tell you the truth, you know what I mean? It's the fact that you won't lie again that makes purification work. How's that?
That's wonderful, but
Yeah.
what about the ripening of
No, and that creates circumstances within your being that prevent the proper ripening of that bad karma. Okay, it will still have some effect. You do get a headache, but it won't ripen in its full force, with its full force. See what I mean? And frankly, purification doesn't work unless you are making a sincere effort not to do that thing again. In the article, I say, my Christian friends who I've explained this to, I took 2 Baptist guys up to my last retreat cabin. We sat for 3 days. At the end, they were Buddhists, you know, it was really cool. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, you know, it's made more sense to them. And they're good people. One's Baptist, one is Catholic. And they didn't give up their church and like that. They still go to church and they love church. But now they're also doing Buddhist practice. They took refuge. They understand their vows. They're keeping their books, and they believe in it. But they got a little suspicious when I said, you know, about purification. They said, oh, you Buddhists really have it good. You know, you can do anything you want the night before. And then you can take this morning after pill, you know, like, and this is great. This is really convenient, you know. It sounds suspicious, you know. But I said not really, because part of the morning after pill is agreeing not to do it again. You can't just go out and commit bad deeds every night and clean up the mess in the morning, because that doesn't clean it. You see what I mean? If you don't honestly intend to give up that behavior, at least for a while, for 5 minutes to 2 days or 5 days or a week, or in the case of a serious one like an abortion, that you can say the rest of my life I'll never get involved with that again. But those mental ones, you know, oh, for the rest of my life I'll never get jealous of another Dharma teacher, you know, no. You have to say for the next 5 minutes or for the next half hour. That's what I'm trying to say. The main purification is accomplished by the successful avoidance of that thing in the future. Okay, and that's how the purification works, and it does work. There's also a neat thing you can do with a little fire offering if you have a heavy one, and I'll teach it to you sometime. Kedub Jade teaches it, and it's like if you have a really serious one. There's a certain thing you can do. The 4 powers with there's a little fire thing you do in your home, and it doesn't set off the fire alarm or anything. It's really cool. Okay, let's take a break there. I know some people have to go. Some of the New York 4 o'clock. Okay. Yeah, and then we'll come back and do a little final. I'll go over the categories one more time, and then we'll do a little meditation, then we'll stop there. Okay? Do we have anything? Okay.
Is it Brother Doc?
Okay, we'll start. Let's do a little mandala. You ready? Yeah. Yeah.
It's a short mandala.
So that's all, just the closing remarks about Tonglen, and then we'll do a short one. I think the thing I like about Tonglen is it's so easy to do, you know what I mean? And you can do it at home. You can do it all day long. Every time you think about it, you can do it. It's a very, very good daily practice. I mean, for me, it's my favorite daily practice, is to do Tonglen. You do the preliminaries like that. Then you do Tonglen, and it's very, very powerful, especially if you think about the emptiness while you do it, okay? Then you cover all your bases. You've covered bodhicitta and you've covered emptiness, you know. So I think it's very appropriate for daily practice. You meet, you know, in New York we have these 5-year classes. Everybody's learning advanced philosophy, and then at some point we realized people didn't know how to do their morning meditation, you know. And then you forget that they didn't ever hear it. You know, they've heard Madhyamika for 3 years and no one ever taught them how to do a morning meditation. And this is a very appropriate morning meditation. And that's all. You know, the whole thing that we've been doing over and over again is a very good meditation for your daily practice. Especially if you enhance it by thinking about the emptiness of these things. Okay? And it really is a quick way to get some results in your Buddhist practice. You will see things change. And I don't know about you, but when I do it with my enemy, there's some kind of subconscious thing goes on. You know, I avoid thinking about them. You see what I mean? The only time I ever think about them is when I'm cranky. But I never purposely think about them. You know what I mean? It's not like I would sit down and let's think about this guy who pushes my buttons, you know? It's not like I want to think about them. I mean, I don't actively hate anybody, but there's people that I'd rather not think about, you know? And that's one of them, you know? And the whole exercise of purposely drawing them up in your mind and then purposely trying to help them, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel really good, you know? It makes me feel really like I could make some progress. It immediately starts to have some effect on me, that to appreciate that these people have suffering also. And to be honest, I've done it for, I don't know, I've been doing this practice for about, as my daily practice for about, I guess about a year. I try to change my daily practice every time I do a retreat, and I do a retreat every 6 months. And I think that's a good schedule. You might want to try it, you know, do a long-term retreat twice a year. I think 3 weeks is good, 4 weeks is very good, 5 weeks is excellent. 2 weeks is okay, but it takes about 2 weeks to really start. And for that you need a lot of instructions. But if you can do that twice a year, then personally, I start my retreat 2 or 3 days ahead of time. I stay in the retreat house, I don't go out, and I start writing down how I'm going to do my practice for the next 6 months. You know, what are the main mental afflictions I want to work on? And an idea about that is to make your daily practice something simple. You know, if it's too much stuff, you won't do it. If it's too much stuff, your effort will be, what do you call it, diluted between all of these things. You know, it's important to concentrate on something. A normal American person who concentrates on any daily practice for more than a month or two, it'll get dry. You see what I mean? You milk it for for the exciting, you know, you get it to a certain point and it's really good. And then if you keep doing it, it seems to get dried out, at least for me. And at that point this is normally about 4 months after the retreat. See, the first 2 or 3 months is very sweet. Around the 3rd month, it gets to some kind of crescendo. I've learned that, I've internalized it. And then around the 4th month, it just seems like I'm repeating something or something. And then I think it's appropriate to go on. So if you've been doing Tonglen for 3-4 months, then do death meditation for 3-4 months and like that. Don't switch around too often, because then you don't get the full benefit. Like, don't switch around every morning, okay? Don't try to do too many things during your meditation. Americans go to 2 extremes. They either don't do any meditation, or they try too much. They try to do too many things. We lack the quality of simplicity. You know, we fill up our meditation time the way we fill up our lives. You know, it's funny, with all these time-saving devices, we have less free time than the cavemen had, you know. Choose something and concentrate on it, and Tonglen is a very good practice to concentrate on. So that's your daily practice. You can do that for about an hour every morning, and it's very nice. If you're doing a sadhanas and things like that, you can insert this in the place where you do Drowa Dapin Nyanjar. If you don't know what Drowa Dapin Nyanjar is, you can ask somebody from New York maybe, who's doing those practices. But probably if you don't know what it is, you're not supposed to know, okay? When you get very, very good at Tonglen, there's a special practice in which you apply it to the Sangwe Chöpa and the Tombani Dekona Niki Chöpa. And that's the best one. But if you don't know what it is, it's not time yet, okay? And that's how, if you're working on sadhanas now, you can incorporate it into your practice, okay? And then it's very, very, they call it in Tibetan, Bok Jimba means throwing gasoline on a fire. It makes the whole thing go much more powerful. Okay. The other effect of doing Tonglen immediately on your enemies is, or the people you don't like, there's a subconscious thing going on between you and them when you meet them again. You know, you look at them slightly different. Your body language towards them is very, very subtly different, and they sense it. They pick up on it. I think dogs are the best at this. You know, a dog from across the room can tell who's a dog lover and who's not, you know. It's weird. It's uncanny. From your body language, they immediately know whether they should jump on you or get away from you, you know. And it's a sense that you get from people. And I think you get it from people when they speak, you know. They don't have to say everything. You know from the way they move. You know from the way they speak. You know from the tone of their voice whether what they're speaking is the truth. You know what I mean? You have a subconscious feeling of everything about this person, and it's usually right, you know. So what I'm saying is that if you keep doing this towards the people in your immediate vicinity that you don't like very much, they will pick up on it. They will sense it. It's not like they can read your mind. Just the way your subtle body language moves the next time you see them, because you will remember this. You know, I have a guy that I'm working on, okay, long time. And they have back problems. Every time I meet them, you know, I'm just subtly aware of how they feel, because I've been working on their back for a couple of days, you know. So I'm almost more interested in their back than they are sometimes, I think. And like that, they pick up on it, and things start to change in your life. Very subtle things start to change, and they will change from being someone you don't like to someone that you're very close to. Last question. Are they changing from their side? No, and no one ever will. You see what I mean? There is no such thing. Say gakcha. Gakcha. When you talk about emptiness, you're talking about the absence of a self-existent object. You see? When you talk about emptiness, you're talking about the fact that a certain object is not present in this room. I'll give you an example of one of the gakchas in this room. I always use this one. A full-sized, purple, two-headed African elephant. Okay? Full-sized, two-headed African elephant is a gakcha in this room. Why? You know, there isn't one here. Not only is there not one here, there couldn't be one here. You see what I mean? If I said normal elephant, well, you know, you could squish one in here somehow. I don't know, break out some window or something. And it's conceivable that you could get one in here. But a purple one with two heads, you see what I mean? Full size. Is not here now. And could never have been here. You see what I mean? Self-existent object is the same thing. You see what I mean? A self-existent object is the same thing. We're not talking about something that could have been there and is not there. We're talking about something that never was there, never will be there, and never could have been there, and isn't there now. That's a gakcha, a self-existent thing. What's the example of a gakcha? When you do this practice towards someone you don't like, and they start to change, okay? What is the gakcha there? What is the two-headed, purple, full-sized African elephant that could never have been there in the first place? It's a guy that could change from his side, okay? It's a guy that could change from his side. There is no such thing. There never was such a thing. There never will be such a thing. And there isn't such a thing now. Okay? If the person you don't like, because of this practice, turns into someone you love, which is the whole point, right? They're not only going to turn into someone you like. If you're really good at this, they're going to turn into a fellow Buddha, a fellow angel in your Buddha paradise. Okay? Everyone you know has to be there. Sorry. You know what I mean? Okay? They not only change into someone you like, your goal in this life before you die is that you see them as part of your Buddha paradise, and they will come. Okay? But the idea that they could turn into that from their side, that's the Gakja. You see what I mean? Nothing in the world changes from its own side. That's Gakja. Nothing exists that way. How many things look that way? Everything. That's why we have a problem. Everything seems, whenever something changes, let's talk about that thing called the sun that comes up in the morning. It doesn't come up in the morning. Okay? That is a collective hallucination of 3 billion people. Okay? Believe it or not. Okay? That is a karma ripening in the minds of 3 billion people simultaneously. And there's no problem with that. Okay? That's totally feasible. Much less the guy who changes. Much less the friend of yours who changes. Of course it's possible. Do they change from their own side? No. Do they change because your projections are shifting? Yes. Does that make them less real? Go stand out in front of a taxi cab and let us know. You see what I mean? Go stand out in front of a taxi cab and let us know. Okay, of course it doesn't make them less real. They're still real. They still work. Okay? So what's the use of thinking of them as projections as opposed to thinking of them as changing from their side? You want to get to nirvana and Buddhahood or not? You see what I mean? Because if they are changing from their own side, you're stuck in samsara. You might as well shoot yourself, honestly. Okay? But if they're changing because your mind is changing, because your karma is shifting, then all things are possible. Just clean up your karma by checking your vows every few hours and keeping a book. No, it's exactly what the Buddha taught. 6th session, Tunduk. It's one of the holiest teachings of Buddhism. We were talking about it this morning. It's a requirement. Why? Because that's the way to make things change the way you want them to change. Okay? And don't be one of those people that has to say, who will never know what could have been, because they didn't try it. You've tried everything else, it doesn't work. Okay? Self-existent methods of getting happy don't work. That's why you're not happy yet. I exhausted them at age 20. Frankly, I was very diligent in my pursuit of pleasure, and and they don't work, And at a certain point. By the way, Tantra requires one other thing, which is just intelligence. You see what I mean? Frankly, it just requires a intelligence, a strong intelligence. You have to see that nothing else is working. And how long it takes you to see that is a personal IQ thing, okay? You experience at a certain age, you experience that nothing's working. But to truly, intellectually grasp that these things are not this way of life called Western civilization doesn't work. It's just a question of it's how smart you are. And at a certain point, you'll just figure it out. And then you'll move on to this path. And if you try this path for a while, and if you think intelligently, you will come up with Tantra. That you have to move on to that, okay? And frankly, whether or not, I forgot to tell you, you asked me about that. Frankly, whether or not you move into it expediently depends a lot on your intelligence. How long does it take you to figure out that other things don't work? And then how long does it take you to figure out logically that the tantric path is valid and you must start doing it quickly? You know what I mean? If you understand Lamrim intellectually quite clearly, you will immediately see that Tantra is correct and it is the fastest way, and you must get into it. Okay, so it's also an IQ thing. They call Dharma IQ. It's called Kelwa. Kelwa means do you have enough virtue to be able to figure these things out clearly in your mind, quickly? And you can enhance that by asking your lamas for their blessing. Okay, like it's not like they say the difference between aptitude and what's the other thing? No, what is it? No, there's something else. No, what's that? No, there's your current aptitude, and then your ability and your aptitude or something like that. Anyway, yeah. Altitude. They used to score you on the SATs in like aptitude and potential or something. Like your current ability, and then the likelihood that you can change your ability. And that's called Jinlap in Tibetan. Jinlap means the likelihood that your capacity would change. You see what I mean? Like you're stuck with a certain IQ. That's your ability. But your aptitude means, could you actually change your IQ? You see what I mean? And that's Jinlap. Jinlap means, and that's the last thing, okay? You ask your lamas for their help, Picture them in front of you, and ask them frankly to help you, okay? Believe in who they are, and ask them either verbally when you meet them or ask them in your meditation to give you Jinlap. Jinlap means your Dharma IQ actually rises. By the way, if you want to screw up your Dharma IQ, it's called Cheltsu. What do you call it? Not living an ethical life. You see what I mean? Whatever Dharma IQ you have now, you can also ruin by not living ethically. Stealing, lying, adultery, killing, harsh words, divisive speech. All of those things have this subtle effect to lower your Dharma IQ. Then you'll open a book about emptiness and you won't get it. Then you go to a lecture and it's just boring. You'll start to drift away from the center. These are the results of Cheltsu. Your wisdom, your ability to analyze problems actually drops. Okay, and good morality does the opposite. Okay, and asking for your lama's blessings. That's very. That was Jetsun Kapa's thing. He spent about half his life asking his lamas for their blessing. Okay, and try that. Okay, we'll do some Tonglen.